Greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News. And if you are tuning in, you are probably smarter than the average bear. Remember that the Friday gas strike that I've started supporting, sponsoring, whatever you want to call it. Please spread that post, spread that event invite far and wide. Let's get everybody involved. If you all, whoever, this is just an open-ended invitation to be a part of the gas strike. So, whatever you want to do, you can make your own event invite. It's probably better if we get more people on one post and one event so that we can, concentrate the support. But, I don't care. Whoever wants to be a part of this, whoever wants to do their own strike, whoever wants to make it happen, please just help in the cause. So I wanted to cover this article from September 13th by Matt McGrath from Science and Environment, BBC News. Climate change, electrical industry's dirty secret boosts warming. Let's find out what this is all about. It's the most powerful greenhouse gas known to humanity, and emissions have risen rapidly in recent years, the BBC has learned. Sulphur hexafluoride, or SF6, is widely used in the electrical industry to prevent short circuits and accidents, but leaks of the little-known gas in the UK and the rest of the EU in 2017 were the equivalent of putting an extra 1.3 million cars on the road. Levels are rising as an unintended consequence of the green energy boom. You don't say. Greenland's ice faces melt. I'm reading the wrong thing. Cheap and non-flammable SF6 is a colorless, odorless synthetic gas. It makes a hugely effective insulating material for medium and high voltage electrical installations. It is widely used across the industry, from large power stations to wind turbines to electrical substations in towns and cities. It prevents electrical accidents and fires. However, the significant downside to using the gas is that it has the highest global warming potential of any known substance. It is 23,500 times more warming than carbon dioxide. Good grief. Just 1 kilogram of SF6 warms the Earth to the same extent as 24 people flying London to New York return, or round trip. I would assume that's what they're trying to say. It also persists in the atmosphere for a long time, warming the Earth for at least 1,000 years. So why are we using more of this powerful warming gas? The way we make electricity around the world is changing rapidly. Where once large coal-fired power stations brought energy to millions, the drive to combat climate change means they are now being replaced by mixed sources of power, including wind, solar, and gas. This has resulted in more connections to the electricity grid and a rise in the number of electrical switches and circuit breakers that are needed to prevent serious accidents. Collectively, these safety devices are called switchgear. The vast majority use SF6 gas to quench arcs and stop short circuits. As renewable projects are getting bigger and bigger, we have to use it within wind turbines, specifically, said Costa Pergusis, an engineer with Scottish Power Renewables, on its new East Anglia wind farm, which doesn't use SF6 in turbines. As we are putting in more and more turbines, we need more and more switchgear, and as a result, more SF6 is being introduced into big turbines offshore. It's been proven for years, and we know how it works, and as a result, it is very reliable and very low maintenance for us offshore. How do we know that SF6 is increasing? Across the entire UK network of power lines and substations, there are around 1 million kilograms of SF6 installed. A study from the University of Cardiff found that across all transmission and distribution networks, the amount used was increasing by 30 to 40 tons per year. The rise was also reflected across Europe, with total emissions from the 28 member states in 2017 equivalent to 6.73 million tons of CO2. That's the same as the emissions from 1.3 million extra cars on the road for a year. That's a lot. Researchers at the University of Bristol who monitor concentrations of warming gases in the atmosphere say they have seen significant rises in the last 20 years. We make measurements of SF6 in the background atmosphere, said Dr. Matt Rigby, reader in atmospheric chemistry at Bristol. What we've seen is that the levels have increased substantially, and we've seen almost a doubling of the atmospheric concentration in the last 2 decades. How does it get into the atmosphere? The most important means by which SF6 gets into the atmosphere is from leaks in the electrical industry. Electrical company Eaton, which manufactures switchgear without SF6, says its research indicates that the full life cycle of the product leaks could be as high as 15%, much higher than many other estimates. How damaging to the climate is this gas? Concentrations in the atmosphere are very small right now, just a fraction of the amount of CO2 in the air. However, the global installed base of SF6 is expected to grow by 75% by 2030. Another concern is that SF6 is a synthetic gas and isn't absorbed or destroyed naturally. It will all have to be replaced and destroyed to limit the impact on the climate. Right now, scientists are detecting concentrations in the atmosphere that are 10 times the amount declared by countries in their reports. Scientists say this is not all coming from countries like India, China, and South Korea. One study found that the methods used to calculate emissions in richer countries severely underreported emissions over the past 2 decades. Why hasn't this been banned? Really good question. SF6 comes under a group of human-produced substances known as F-gases. The European Commission tried to prohibit a number of these environmentally harmful substances, including gases in refrigeration and air conditioning, back in 2014, but they faced strong opposition from industries across Europe. In the end, the electrical industry lobby was too strong, and we had to give in to them, said Dutch Green MEP Bas Eickhout, who was responsible for the attempt to regulate F-gases. The electric sector was very strong in arguing that if you want an energy transition and you have to shift more to electricity, you will need more electric devices, and then you will also need more SF6. They used the argument that otherwise the energy transition would be slowed down. So are there alternatives, and are they very expensive? For high voltage applications, experts say there are very few solutions that have been rigorously tested. However, for medium voltage operations, there are several tried and tested materials. Some in the industry say that the conservative nature of the electrical industry is the key reason that few want to change to a less harmful alternative. I will tell you, everyone in this industry knows you can do it. There's not a technical reason not to do it, said Louis Schaefer from Eaton. It's not really economic. It's more a question that change takes effort, and if you don't have to, you won't do it. That's why you need regulations and laws and people in power that understand what the problem is and understand that you have to do something about it. Sitting in the North Sea, some 43 kilometers from the Suffolk coast, Scottish Power Renewables has installed one of the world's biggest wind farms, where the turbines will be free of SF6 gas. East Anglia 1 will see 102 of these towering generators erected, with the capacity to produce up to 714 megawatts of power by 2020, enough to supply 500,000 homes. Once there are viable alternatives on the market, there's no reason not to use them. In this case, we've got a viable alternative, and that's why we're using it. Well, so that's good news. Just need more pressure on those who might be able to regulate SF6 out of use. What happens next? The EU will review the use of SF6 next year, and will examine whether alternatives are available. However, even the most optimistic experts don't think any ban is likely to be put in place before 2025. Yeah. A problem I had no idea existed. And I don't know how many all knew about this, but interesting nonetheless. Really quickly, just to should have covered these the other day when I was talking about the 9/11 thing. But here's two articles for the people, the believers of the official story. Thank you. The believers of the official story. New York area fire commissioners call for new 9/11 investigation. These guys sound like conspiracy theorists or crazy wild-eyed YouTubers, or maybe they follow Alex Jones. No, they're first responders for 9/11. On the 18th anniversary of the September 11th attacks, first responders called for a new 9/11 investigation. After all this time, so many questions still remain about what exactly happened. So this is really happening. It is not socially acceptable to question the official explanation that was given for the collapse of the towers and other events of that day, but now these questions are being taken more seriously. However, the rushed and poorly managed 9/11 Commission report did not do an adequate job at investigating the crimes, which left experts in a variety of different fields with questions about the official story. Many of these professionals belong to an organization called Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. On July 24th, the Franklin Square and Munson fire districts voted unanimously for a new investigation citing overwhelming evidence that pre-planted explosives caused the destruction of the 3 World Trade Center buildings. The resolution was written by Commissioner Christopher Gioia and received overwhelming support from Commissioner Dennis Lyons. When the vote was passed, the families of the 9/11 victims showed up in the audience to express their support for the cause and their gratitude to the departments for making this issue a priority. So if you care about the victims of 9/11 and their families, then you really should care about this new investigation. And very quickly, also on September 11th, or right around the date, the University of Alaska Fairbanks is releasing the draft report of a 4-year computer modeling study of WTC-7's collapse, conducted by researchers in the university's Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. The UAF WTC-7 report concludes that the collapse of WTC-7 on 9/11 was caused not by fire, but rather by the near simultaneous failure of every column in the building. And that doesn't just happen all on its own. Something needs to cause that simultaneous failure. I think that's probably what they're getting at. Anyways, I'm going to link both these articles below, and you guys, doubters and supporters, can check them out alike. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so with the links below. Please share, again, the Friday Gas Strike Facebook event far and wide. Thank you so much. Until next time, peace.